rubbed at his eyebrows, and Esther saw that he was embarrassed. Even Laura rolled her eyes and said, "Dad!" "Sorry, you two," he said, crouching down to Esther and Sophie's level, as if they were babies instead of 7 and 5. "You must miss him. I'm sure he misses you too." Esther just shook her head. She stared at his shoes and didn't say anything. The skin under her eyes seemed to go hot and tight, and her throat went all narrow. The best way to not miss Daddy too much was not to talk about him, or even think of him. Whenever she felt sad, she just thought about something else, like school or brownies.
"He is on a ship," said Sophie, poking her head out from behind her mother's legs. "And it's really far away, right in the middle of the sea."
Sophie was too little to understand. She kept asking when he was coming back. That just made it worse, not just for Esther, but for her mummy. "I expect he'll be sailing back to you very soon," said Laura's daddy, giving Sophie a clumsy pat on the shoulder before he stood up again. "Sorry, Caro. How are you holding up?"
"It's fine,"
said Caroline brightly, showing all of her teeth in a smile that went from side to side instead of up at the corners like a real one. Esther would have liked to hold her mother's hand, but Mummy did not agree with feeling sorry for yourself, especially not in front of other people, so Esther put her hands in the pockets of her dress instead, and squeezed her thumbs tight inside her fingers till they hurt.
"Now, girls,"
Esther's mother said, in the children's television presenter voice she used when talking to them in front of other grown-ups.
"why don't you take Laura and show her the playroom? I'll call you when it's time for lunch."
Sophie ran ahead down the corridor, excited to show Laura the display of toys she'd helped to arrange. Esther was slower, waiting for Laura to follow, and so she heard what Laura's mummy said to her own, even though Margie had lowered her voice to a murmur.
"The news from the Falklands is so terrible, Caro. Those poor men on the Coventry. You must be worried sick."
Esther wasn't allowed to watch the news, not even John Craven's news round. But boys talked in the playground about Harrier jump jets and RGs, and some of the bigger girls had started a campaign to ban corned beef at lunchtime because corned beef came from Argentina and England was at war with Argentina. Esther knew her daddy was at the war, but it was never ever talked about at home. Her mummy scowled and waved her hands at the two of them, shooing them down the hallway and out of earshot.
"Go on,"
she said.
"What are you waiting for?"
Esther led Laura to the playroom without any of the excitement she had felt when setting up the toys just a few hours ago. She could only think of what Margie had just said. What did happen to those poor men? Why should Mummy be worried sick? She only remembered the toys when she saw Sophie waiting there already next to them, excitedly hopping from one foot to the other. But Laura walked straight past without even noticing, and instead sat down on one of the high-backed wooden chairs by the window, crossing her legs like a grown-up. She looked bored, but also a little expectant, like someone who was waiting for a train.
"Do you want to play with our owl?"
offered Sophie, picking it up to show her in case Laura had missed it by mistake.
"Is that real?"
asked Laura, shrinking backwards.
"Yes, it's stuffed,"
said Sophie with pride.
"Our granny had it when she was little, from Scotland, and then our mummy, and now it's ours. But you can play with it if you like."
"Gross," said Laura. "No."
"No, thank you,"
said Sophie crossly. She took the owl into a corner of the playroom and stroked its molting feathers in case it had been hurt by Laura's rudeness. Esther knew it was her turn to say something. She was the eldest, and that meant she was the hostess. She was in charge. But she felt nervous, confused by the talk of her father, and this confident Laura was not at all the shy guinea pig she had been expecting. Everything she had planned to offer as entertainment, the Cindy's, her newest colouring-in books, seemed suddenly babyish and silly to someone who had